What does work is profitable businesses grouped together are worth so much more as a group than they are as individual companies. And
Okay.
because of that, our allegiance, our duty is to get owners more money. Now, there's no risk to them because they are not giving up any equity and they are not servicing any debt. And
Right.
there's no disruption to their business. In fact, in many ways, it's a really nice play because when you're preparing a business for sale, people know.
Right.
And when employees know that you're preparing to sell, they get nervy and they
Right.
start looking around. So
Right.
because we're adding value from the outside in a way that owners could do if they have the money but can't because they don't, then we're disrupting the business to a minimal level. So when we talk about risk, we say no equity dilution. So it's not minimal, there's no equity dilution. We don't take any equity. And when we say no debt, there's no debt they're taking on. So they get to keep so much more of it than they ever would have done selling as an individual business. And
Right.
we'll get a much better value because we've now got them in a group. But we don't go in to try and operationally improve them. You could, if you've got all the CPA expertise, you could go in and do 2 years getting it already. More than half of the people that we talk to are possible buyers of a group that we're putting together don't want that done.
Right.
They want to do that themselves because if they could take a business on 15% EBITDA and take it to 30% EBITDA, just
Right.
to give you made up figures for this example, because they're going to improve it, then that's gain that they take and that gets their money back much more quickly. And acquisitions aren't the same for different companies either. We're doing an acquisition roll up for a very large tech play that everybody's heard of.
Okay.
And so in that scenario, what they're looking for is businesses with revenue of at least 20 million,
Of
at
course.
least,
Of
right? And so we're bringing that together because they find it very difficult to find the right companies. We're doing all of that because what we're dealing with is businesses that are not on the market. In fact, the bigger businesses, you think they might go to brokers and things like that. They won't. They'll only work through banks. They don't want to work through brokers. They won't touch a broker.
Right.
But but we can bring all that together and add value because we can even create the funding for said company to use if they need it. And
Wow.
where that sometimes happens is years ago, I was doing a software sale to a large information business. It was a 147 million sale.
Okay.
And at the last minute, at the 11th hour, the deal fell over because another deal came up that was even more attractive to them. They couldn't do both.
Sounds common. This sounds like something I just recently saw in a movie.
Right. So they did that deal and they promised they'd come back and do the deal I was preparing. And I didn't believe them, but they did. They came back and spent 30 million more a year later because the business had performed the way that it said that it would. And so it was more valuable. So, and they paid it. But if I'd had the funding support that we've got now, I would have been able to offer that to them as operating capital, not capital. So they would have taken it on as a bridging loan, if you like,
Mm.
and done the acquisition. Now they would have financed out of it within 2 quarters because they had to go to board approval to get the capex, and they would have done that, and they'd have financed out of it. And yeah, it would have cost them 2 or 3 million more, but the deal would have been off, and then they made their money back on the deal in 6 months because they had global distribution for this offering,
Mm.
so they could have pushed it earlier, and that extra 3 million wouldn't have been a problem.
Wow.
So every single deal is different and comes with its own set of things that you need to do for that
For sure.
particular buyer and
For
that
sure.
particular group. But we do work a lot with potential buyers before we even start the grouping process so that
Of
we're not
course.
holding the capital for a long period of time because we make
Now,
the money on the turn.